All right, welcome back. So it looks like I'm going to get on doing the Blue GD today and get some metal repair taken care of. As you saw from the last upload, got to do a patch panel. So in order to get that in there, we're going to have to take care of all this cancer that has acclimated behind it, which is really the reason why that section has rotted in the first place. As you can see, there's no real protection in there. You know, there's nothing much you can do about it. It sprays up and gets up inside the actual pinch welds on the inside, and it seeps in. Bada bing, bada boom. You got cancer. So, nothing much you can do about it. So, with that said, let's get to work. Alright, well, this is going to be so much fun. I love metal. It is what it is. So, I got everything ready to go. You saw from the last upload, I went ahead and made a patch panel out of some solid steel. And it's 18 gauge if anybody's wondering what it is. So obviously it is thicker than what that crap is. And I know I'm not going to have an issue with it because I will end up, after welding it all into place, I will seal it. And everybody knows I like the bed liner, so I'll spray bed liner in there, get it all done. This is my little tray of madness. I got all my tools ready to go. Got the hammer and dollies, you know, pretty much everything that I'm going to need for today. It just really makes things a lot easier. I don't need this oil cap, dude. What the fricker? He's over here changing his oil. So, anyways, fricker. I can't cuss anymore. The old lady says I'm not allowed to cuss anymore. So, you know, hey. Whip! Hey, man, dude. Whatever. Happy wife, brother. That's how that works. Well, have a kid and you'll have a wife immediately. Whether you're married to him or not. That's just how that works. Yeah. Metal time. Alright, so now, everybody's probably wondering how I made this out of one solid piece of sheet steel. And to prove that I did, I'll give you guys a little slideshow real quick of the general idea and procedure of how it's done. Now, sorry I didn't do any videos of how to do it. And for the sheer fact that I can't take the time to do that and get so much done in the day, you know, and I'm sorry for that. I've been neglecting my YouTube channel, and I'm going to try not to do that anymore. So with that said, a little slideshow to bring you up to pace of where I am here. Check out that fitment. Nice and tight. Just sitting there, all molded. I'll just pull it off. It's even got the stock lip. I even made the pocket, the channel. All OEM, you know, exactly like it would be if you ordered it from the factory, and still got the inside lip. You know, same thing as the OEM does as it stretches up here and whatnot. So yeah. Alright, so I pulled out a couple of scrap pieces here, a couple of pieces of sheet steel, and we're going to go ahead and work on these rocker cap corners here. So we're going to get the metal repair done because they are rotted, but in order to repair that, you don't want to just cut that section out because basically it's hard to replicate. It's a lot easier to replicate this section while it's stationary and already, fixated to the actual vehicle itself. So with that said, I'll show you the process of how I make these patch panels out of flat steel, and yeah, go from there. I did have a few people that actually hit me up and asked me if I could make these rocker caps because there's actually a company out there called Subi Savers, great company, but they don't make the caps themselves. They only make the full rocker or the inner section itself with no caps. So you'd have to buy like the whole section, and it's hard, because literally that section that I just showed you is the most problematic part on the whole car. So if I can make a couple, a few caps of those and just send them out to a couple people, help them out, by all means, hopefully I create a market and maybe swayed Subi Savers to just make the caps, So I'm just going to make like a 6-inch caps for both sides, kind of replicate a few of them, and get those sent out to the people that asked me for them. Alright, so first things first, before we start any kind of fabrication down here, we're going to have to work with cardboard. It's kind of the go-to tool. And yeah, I said tool, that's what we're going to use it for. It literally is something you're going to use to get the job done, just like that fabrication station over there. So this is what we're going to start with. You're going to work with cardboard because it's cheap. You mess up, you take it and you go mess that up, grab another piece, and you call it. It's pretty easy, So with that said, we'll take that, we'll place that on there and kind of form fit it to the area. And when I say form fitting, I'm going to show you what that means. Alright, so I think that's probably good. Okay, so what I mean by form fitting is you're basically going to use your hands as what you're going to do later on with the hammer. So stretching and manipulating this cardboard is exactly how it's going to replicate with metal. The reason why we use cardboard is because it acts just like metal. It's rigid, and it's got some structure to it, but it can easily be shaped. So when I say easily shaped, here, come on in here and I'll show you this concave section here. So, it's got some little concave and some interest that we need to press into. So in order to get this flat, picture this as a flat sheet of steel, I want to come across here and then come across this line and then drop down, and then I'll make this section, this cap here, and then probably come up and around. I'll make the actual lip, the OEM lip that comes down around. That way you can drill out all your spot welds and then put the cap back on. Should be ready to go. As long as this section here isn't as rotted as majority are, as you can see. So if you get to it quickly, you should be able to do it with just a cap. So that's basically what I'm going to make right now. So you want to do is you want to make sure you have enough overhang so that when we do pull this around, it's the same as the lip. You want an OEM lip. So what I normally do is I'll give myself leeway. And when I say leeway, I give myself a lot because I don't want to have to fight this later by being too short. Who wants to weld a little sliver of metal back on there just because you messed up? So give yourself some leeway. We're only trying to make about an 8-inch patch here, 8-inch cap section. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start stretching this here because we know that that's about right where I want it. And I'm just going to start pressing it into place. And this is breaking down the rigidity of the actual cardboard itself. Now putting this right in that crease of the door itself, I know that's where that's got to go for placement, and now I can stay stationary with that. Now I can put my hand in here and I know that that's not going to go anywhere. Now I can start stretching this and start moving all of this where it needs to go. Because you can see when I start pushing on this, this tab here will start pulling in. That's the same thing happens when you have steel. I start stretching this section, something's got to give or something's got to pull. So if I start pushing in here on the flat steel, know that this edge here is going to start to curdle in. And when it does that, you're going to have a ripple here, just like it's starting to do right here when I push on it. So you got to stretch it. We'll get it in there as best as possible so I know that that's the amount of material that I need. So that's pressed in all up against the steel, and that's right up in the pocket. I know that's where that has got to go. And then I know that this is setting in the crease, and that's where that's got to go. So with that material being utilized right now, and I know that that's where that panel has to go, now I'm going to start wrapping this edge around. Still knowing that this area here in this pocket is stretched and that much material has been taken because it's being used. Now I can bring this around. I'll just kind of tuck it in there, and I usually put it in the back and like wrap it around, because then by doing so it gives you a line, and then there's your line. You can trim right on that line and know that that arc is going to go right with the actual wheel well that it's supposed to have. And then you can just drill out your little holes so that you can unispot it on after. Alright, so now that we've got the impression exactly where I want it, and we know that when we wrap that around, that's where it's supposed to be, we're going to start trimming off the access now. Now, taking away the access, it's going to be a lot easier for us to mold this around, so we don't need this in the way, because that's all it's going to be. And obviously this section here can be removed all the way down throughout here, because we're only trying to make about an 8-inch cap. So with that said, that's about 8 inches from here to here, but I want to give myself a little bit of extra leeway, so I'll give myself an extra inch, and then that's going to be my cut line now. So that's where we'll cut out now, and this is the general area of where that seam is going to be. When I say seam, I mean this actual seam right here, and that's where I want to be. Is right in that seam, because that's where we stretched this cardboard here, so it actually fits up nice tight in that pocket. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to put pressure on that pocket, make sure this stays stationary, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw my inseam line here. And then I'm going to bring that up and the contour right into that inseam, and I know that is going to be that. So that's where that line is going to be, and I know now where I can now replicate this over to the steel, and I know where I need to manipulate the metal at to bring this in to make that step. Pretty simple, right? So on with the next. We'll put that right back in there again. We'll push this right in here. Nice pocket, nice stretch, so all the metal is being utilized the way I want it to be. We'll say metal in this aspect, it is cardboard. And then I said I wanted to come up here, so we're going to go ahead and then draw a line on the actual body itself. So I know where to place the actual template every single time. So now right here is where this body line ends. So I'm going to make a line here on the cardboard, and then make a line right here. So I have two placement lines now. I have this placement line that I now placed here, and I have a placement line for the cardboard that I can line up. So it's almost like a crosshair. Boom. I put that right there. I know this goes there. So now I'll put that back there again. I'll push this into the contour line, and then I'm going to come in through the back side and score that edge. So here, come on the back side, score that back edge, and then now I can remove this top flap section. So you come from the back, and now that can be trimmed off, and I know that that's going to be perfectly right on this seam here. Alright, so I went ahead and I trimmed away some access, and I went and drew some body lines where all these body lines are. And what I mean by placing the body lines. The reason why I do this is because it makes it easier for you to know where you need to manipulate at. You know, if you fold that edge on that seam, and it's going to give you what you're looking for. So with that said, I'll show you what I've done here. We'll go ahead and we'll put it on the little crosshairs that I made. So everything lines up. We'll put that right in the pitch. We know that that is there. Push this in so that it's utilizing what we need. We'll wrap that around, and then I even marked where it goes, so that wraps up in there. I just gave myself a little bit of extra flap. This is the line that we're going off of. I'll end up cutting this access here off, but for now it's good to have that extra, so when I push it in, you'll see that it dimples and it makes that line that I made there. So that's how I did that. So I'll trim that off, and then we'll start wrapping this up and under. And you can see how it buckles. You see how this is all buckling here. Now the reason it's doing this is because there's too much metal here. And in order to get rid of the stress and strain, you know, because you're putting stress and tolerance onto it, it's got to go somewhere. Something's got to give, or something's got to, you know, push or pull. So in this instance, because we're going to push this underneath, you're going to have a buckle. In order to get rid of this buckle here, you're going to have to shrink this edge. Now, I've seen a lot of guys that don't have shrinkers, and they'll do a pie cut, you know, cut a couple slits in it, and then they wrap it over, you know, a couple V's, and then when they wrap it over, it closes the pie cut up, and then you're able to stitch weld it. I don't like doing that because the weld actually creates a weakness, especially from the back side, and a lot of guys, they don't protect their welds and they don't spray anything from the backside. So I try to keep that fabrication down when it's just some simple metal manipulation, and it saves you so much more time than having to bust out the welder and weld all that up. It's really, it's time consuming. It's something that if you just kind of utilize your time a little bit more, you can actually get farther with the job and make more money and get it done faster, because you're not just sitting there welding all day, stitching up all those pie cuts that you had to make in there, when all you had to do is just shrink that with a simple shrinker, you know. So it's kind of, you know, pointless to work hard with that, you know. And as the saying goes, work smarter, not harder. So I try to do that as much as I can. You know, your tools are going to make you the money, you know. Yeah, they're expensive for a reason. So we'll put that back, pull this around, and then we're going to start molding this around. I know that it ends here on the rocker panel. Even though I can see the cardboard is starting to crease here, it's okay. Don't let that get to you, because you don't want it to crease there. That's what you got the marker for, and these are the guidelines that you're going to go with. So if the cardboard wants to do a crease there because it doesn't want to hold the structure that you're putting that strain on there, because, I mean, guys, it's just cardboard. It's not metal. It's not going to do exactly what you want it to do. So just hold it in place, and then where you want that line, just mark where that line goes. And I know that that rocker needs to start forming under at this point. That's the point. So now, this is all symmetrical. I know that this is my top rocker line here. This is my two lines here, here and here, that I've marked here and here. So that's that face. So now that's all parallel that runs underneath there. So I know that I generally need to be in that area. And that's this face here. Now, I'm going to go through and take a tape measure so I know exactly where I need to bend, but the best way to do it is to form fit it, which we're doing now. So we'll go ahead and we'll put crosshairs back on there. I'm going to push my fingers back in here, utilize the panel. That way it pulls it in the directions it needs to go, like it's going to do with the steel. You always want to replicate what you're doing. Always hold this pressure, because you're not going to be able to just hold this here, let this flap off, and then wrap underneath, because you can see it moves. It's not going to stay stationary, and you're not going to get the proper measurements that you need. We're making these lines exactly where these body lines go, and if this moves just a tad, that's going to mess up your entire shape. You're going to really kick yourself in the ass, because then you got to file it after. Oh, I mean throw it away, by the way, when I say file it. So, yeah. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody works hard. and nobody wants to throw their hard work away. So just take your time, remember all the steps, you know, and just form fit it. It's cardboard. We're going to reach underneath here and just start form fitting where the pinch weld goes. You know, by form fitting, I'm just pushing it into that pinch weld crease so I know where that pinch weld is going to be. And then I'll start flapping this down. But for now, I'm going to pinch where that cardboard is with my finger. And I know right there is that crease, that line. Boom, right there. And then the pinch weld itself, it's supposed to be, I believe it's 3/4 of an inch. I normally will make the pinch weld about 1 inch long, just for the sheer fact that it does this. A lot of people like to put jacks on them. They're not supposed to, you know, but you don't really know any better until you do it, and then you say, oh shit, when it tacos over like that. You know, who wants their pinch weld to look like Taco Tuesday? So, yeah. Back to making some pinch welds, so we know that that's the line, that crease meets up in here. So when I say that line, I mean this crease line right here is where I just drew that line. So if that's the case, and then this has to come down 3/4 of an inch, I just have to come down 3/4 of an inch from here, and I know that that is now going to be my new pinch weld to weld this actual cap on after. You know, and you can kind of see it. It's kind of starting to come to shape. You know, you'll get the idea, especially once you start rolling it and whatnot. But now we can go over to the bench, grab some straight edges, because we've got some lines and some measurements. So, take some cardboard here and just real quick, we'll run some straight lines across. We're just trying to get the general idea of where the bends are going to be. Because when you put it in the bender and the brake, it's already got a straight edge on there. So you're just trying to get where line up your pinpoints and then get the bend. So that's basically that. And then we know that our pinch weld here from this line is going to come down. So anything from this line down is waste. So we're going to cut that off. We're going to get it out of our way. And it's a lot easier to form fit the rest of the section when there's not much of a flap on there. I'll do that now. What I normally do, actually, is you don't have scissors and you're pretty much running around with metal shears, because a lot of guys don't have these electric shears, which they're awesome. They cut metal like butter, but not all the time do you have them. So these are old goodies, and they do great for cardboard as well. So they're good for scissors. And then that's the line. That's the pinch weld line. We know that that is going to go all the way across. Anything else is scrap. So I'm just going to cut below that, give myself just a little bit extra leeway. You know, and it's a lot easier instead of having a whole bunch of tools out just to have the shears, because you can use this on this and on this. So yeah, that's pretty much getting there. You're starting to get the idea, you know, the contour here. You can still kind of see it from the impression. It's a little stretched. So we know that we can replicate this to this. Now, understanding if you have enough steel or not is to actually take it and replicate it here. We know that we can take this, flatten this all right back out, and just trace it on the lines after this has been form fitted. Every line, every dash has been perfectly, you know all your tick marks. You want to make sure that it's exactly going to be bent in the same spot, for the sheer fact that you don't want to throw it away. You know, so tape measure, it doesn't lie. You know, at this point in time, this is just a rough mock-up. This is quick. Obviously, explaining this takes a long time. Now, that took a long time. I probably already would have been done by now, to be honest. And, you know, Tyler's bear witness to that. He's seen me do some stuff. He's filming now, and I'm sure he understands that I'd probably already be done by now if I just bang this out. This is probably, to me, I don't know, 20-minute job. 20 minutes. I think I can knock this out in 20 minutes. There's no problem. But I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to take time to do this because a lot of people are not going to share this information. I even talked with Tyler before we did this. I wasn't even hesitant. You know, I was extremely hesitant to even teach people how to do this. This is my bread and butter. You know, I've been doing metal work my whole life, but honestly, what came down to my decision making was this is a great family that I've been introduced to, the Subaru world. You know, the Subaru family is just amazing. So it's better to share and to kind of share that love rather than so much hate, because I feel like America kind of has like a stronger bond. You know, Subaru America is really so much farther surpassed than other Subaru countries. So, you know, Subaru France, Subaru Asia, Subaru Japan, you know, even where these guys, you know, where they come from, they don't do what we do here. They don't have that camaraderie. They definitely don't have that community. You know, I've talked to a lot of UK guys and, you know, in Scotland, all over the world, and they don't have the camaraderie that we have here. And a lot of them join our American groups so that they can have that family appeal. So with that said, I got to teach you guys how to fix these things. You love them just as much as I do, and there's a reason why you're watching this. Yeah, it's a little long and drawn out, but I hope you're learning something. Go for it. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm not Superman. I can't do the form fitting with my fingers anymore.
He wishes.
Yeah, I wish. Exactly. So that's where I'm at right now is once I fold this over, we'll have a nice lip here, and I'll be able to trim it off exactly where it needs to be. And then now we're going to go ahead and start pressing all of this in and mold all that in just like a press would. Now, you know, kind of think about this in a manufacturing purpose, actually, I should say. All right, so let's say we're mass producing this panel. Now, the best way to do it is a company like Subi Sabers, where they literally do imprints. You know, they press the part in and out on a mold. So that's basically what we're going to do, but we're going to do it really slowly. So they do it in one simple press, and that's the reason why they charge what they charge, because they have that OEM fitment, and you got to pay for those tools to stamp out that nice part. So with that said, I'm impatient. I don't feel like ordering anything, and I've had some people ask for them, so I might as well make them. I'd be stupid not to do it. I like money, so who doesn't? In order to get this to stay here, and again, I will express I'm not Superman, you got to literally screw it to the car, you know, so it stays there, stationary. You don't want it to move while you're metal manipulating this panel. So we're going to do a couple pilot holes. We're going to sink in some self-tappers, and we're going to place it there so it doesn't move, and now I can start forming everything into the actual grooves, lines, sill, rocker, stuff,
metal.
Yeah. So yeah, you get it. You know, that's where we're at. Now, I tend to do things a little faster. I don't really need all the lines that I showed you guys on the cardboard because I literally do it this way. I'm just quick with it. I throw some sheet metal up there and I just make it by hand and get it done just because I've been doing it for so long. But those are the guidelines that you can use to get started. You know, obviously that's the way to be. You know, use those. Me personally, I give myself the extra flap of steel for a reason, because I don't have to generally, you know, place this exactly where it needs to go. All I have to do is just put it in a relative position, screw it there, and I know I have enough metal in every direction, you know. So you can see here, you know, I give myself a little bit of extra room all the way around, and I even still gave myself an extra flap here, an extra flap here, an extra flap here, and I still gave myself extra room beyond that. So, you know, this line here, this bottom line here is actually the bottom of the pinch weld. So all this is extra metal. This ends here, and then this pocket will actually groove like this as you come up and under. that's what this line is here. So this panel out here ends here, but the inside actually ends in here. So that's basically where we're gonna go, you know, with that. You can replicate the lines over. You can bring them over and just, you know, put your ticks on here, and then you know where everything is, and you can place it, you know. But me, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of complacent in my ways, and I just kind of just like to, you know, like that new saying is, you just fucking send it. So I like the new saying. It's awesome, you know. Everybody says it, and I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. So I'm going to put this on here. That's generally relative area. You know, I'm going to put that right to that line because I know I don't want to go any further than this guideline here that I made for myself. So I'm going to put that on there. And then the line here that I had for the guideline, I'm just going to go a little bit above that. Line up on there. I know that that is obviously way more than I need to make this little tiny 1/2-inch lip so that I can put those pinch welds back in. And then I'm going to hold this here stationary, and then I'm going to rock it up under while it stays here. And then I know, you can see here, I've got plenty of room in here to make all of this, because I've got to make that dimple right here and then start folding down from this area here to make that pinch weld, and that's like 1.5 inches of extra material. So plenty of room. I like the placement of this steel, so I'm going to go ahead and rock it right back up, hold it here, and then I'm going to put the placement of my self-tapper right here at the top of the rocker, because I know there's going to be a lot of stress at the top, and I want it to hold it right on that body line because I want to be able to manipulate all this top here. This whole seam here, once I start rolling this into that pocketed area, it's going to have a lot of strain and tension. So I want to accommodate that with a screw. Boom. Okay, so that's the placement. It's exactly on that line. I know that when I start pushing on this, it's already going to start arcing and making that fold for me in the OEM placement that the rocker is. So literally, this is as OEM as you can get without ordering this damn thing from the frickin' factory. So I'm going to show you how to do it, you know, so that you don't mess up making some shit patch panel and you got to put a shit ton of Bondo on there and make it look good, because nobody likes mud. You know, that stuff's porous, it's full of holes, it consumes water, it's like a sponge, you know, so don't use it. And if you're gonna use it, use the least amount as possible, because the thinner it is, the better it works. The thicker it is, the less rigid it is. It's really not strong. They crack very easily, especially the thicker it is. Alright, so I'll bring that up, I'll put that in the placement where I like it. It's right on the line. And then we'll find the body line, which is right there. And then we'll do the same thing, we'll replicate and put one here. Well, normally in this situation, I would just drill all these holes, place it, come over here, put a whole bunch of self-tappers in place, and just run with it. You know, again, I'm just going to take the time to explain all this stuff to you guys so that you can get an idea of the entire process, how it's done. Okay. Alright, so there's that one. Alright, so now, the most strain and pressure of where this area is going to be is right in that corner where you have the transition from where it goes from lateral to horizontal. Alright, so where this peak is in this corner, that's going to have the most strain. So I know that I can put one right here in that corner on that body line here, because that's where I'm going to want to stretch. I'm going to want it to pull from up here. So when I start pushing it in here, just like it did on the cardboard, it's going to start pulling here and rippling the steel. which is fine. Don't worry about ripples right now because you can always shrink or stretch the metal later. It's not a big deal. So as long as you go slow, you won't rip it. You know, I'm going to show you real quick. This is some thick stuff. This is 18 gauge. I go up to 18 gauge because a lot of tools actually don't work over 18 gauge because of how thick it is. You know, like those shears, those are like 18 gauge shears. You know, anything more than that, you're going to have issues cutting it. You saw me kind of fighting with it. You know, it's a little hard to cut it, but it's a lot easier than shears, you know, hand shears. So I'm going to grab a couple self-tappers. I'm going to sink some self-tappers in and then grab some hammer and dollies and see if we can manipulate this for you. Alright, so I got it all screwed on there, and you can see where that pocket is. I've got that screw here below that actual body line there. The reason why I went a little bit below it is because I want to be able to stretch the metal here and not necessarily tear it or anything. So that's basically where I'm at right here. So yeah, I'm done. I fixed it. You know, close the door and call it a day. Send it. You know, we're done. You know, shit, damn it. All right, isn't that how you form fit stuff? You just shut the door really hard and then it pushes it in there.
No, I thought the same thing.
You know, like,
isn't that how rednecks like it?
Dude, like, we should do that. Like, you ready? Yeah, if only it worked that way. So yeah. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and end the upload there because it's a lot of drawn out information, and we're going to say that that's part one of how to make a metal panel. So that patch panel, they're kind of a pain in the butt, and it's actually explaining every step-by-step process. I kind of just go at it like riding a bike. You know, once you learn how to ride, you just jump on it and ride it, but you still have to learn all those steps to get to that point. Well, those steps take a while when it comes to metal manipulation and explaining them, and then why you do it that way. So with that said, that's the end of part one. Meet me up on part two. Look out for that next upload. I'm Bill Schneider. This is Rumble Garage. I work on only cars with the stars, Subaru only. Please subscribe, hit that like below, and yeah, drop a comment. I love the comments. Have a good one.